What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark, back to MovieGuy.com. It's the reason for the season. This is it's the holidays. It's Christmas Eve, and this is the Santa Claus 2. They made a sequel. We're gonna talk about it. It's on Disney Plus. It has audio description. I'm doing this sort of as part of the holiday classics because for some people I know that all the Santa Claus movies work equally for them. Like they grew up and they love all of them. And then also, uh, you know, it's also the 30th anniversary of the original Santa Claus. So why not tackle all three of them at the same time? Um, this film has the original cast is returning, and we add Spencer Breslin and Elizabeth Mitchell are like the two most notable cast additions for the sequel. There'll be a couple more for the third film, but the most notable ones are Spencer Breslin, who's playing like the number two elf behind Bernard, who's still David Krumholtz, and he uncovers the fact that there is this other clause that they didn't read it well enough. And I always thought this movie was funny when it came out because I was like, oh, we're making a Santa Claus sequel. I was like, well, okay, that seems fine. And I was really open to the idea of it. I watched it and I was like, man, they just did not land that at all. It just didn't work because it kind of made me wonder what happened to the last Mrs. Claus. I mean, the franchise already sort of you're having to take the leap of faith that Scott Calvin can sort of make it through life, right? You don't know necessarily how the previous guy, at least at this point before they go into like the whole hall of whatever. And I mean, the Santa Claus TV show just keeps adding on to the lore of this world, but um, you don't know anything about the previous Santas, and it's but so was there just like a Mrs. Claus, and then when the other one fell off the roof, she just disappeared? Did she just like was like sitting there and she just like vanished? Because in order for there to be a requirement where they're like, well, Santa has to have a Mrs. Claus, and if not, so that's why Santa's losing his magic. Um, it begs the question of what happened to the last one. Where did she go? Because she definitely didn't fall off the roof. Um, so yes, so this is a little bit of a rom-com for Santa. It's a Santa rom-com. Santa has to find somebody who's willing to be his Mrs. Claus. And he's like, well, I don't know about the dating scene. I saw myself getting married again, and he's kind of worked his way into being happy being Santa, and that's cool. There's also a side plot where Charlie's on the naughty list. Shocker. But also when you meet Charlie, you're like, dude, how are you on the naughty list? He's just like he's got a little bit of an attitude, but I feel like I was like, what are the rules to get on the naughty list? He's got like a little bit of graffiti, and the principal's mad at him, and whatever. It's very it's all to like get Tim Allen to get connected with this principal, who played by Elizabeth Mitchell, who I think when she shot this had not yet gotten her role on Lost, which sort of really helped her career a lot. Was being on, like the top TV show at the time. But I think this is pre-Lost, barely. Uh, she also was an original cast member. She was an addition, so it's definitely pre-Lost for her. Um, and so she plays Carol, who is seen as being, uptight, and Scott has to sort of spend the whole movie wooing her, and he's slowly losing his magic because he doesn't have a Mrs. Claus, and when he runs out of magic, I guess bad things happen. And that could have been enough as a movie, but for some reason they decided on top of this that we needed this weird thing where there's this like toy Santa that's running the North Pole while Scott's off getting his Tinder on, you know? Like, and that sort of movie doesn't work for me. It looked so weird back in the day. Like, I'm blind, but I could see when this movie came out, and the weird plastic shine that they put on Tim Allen and his facial movements. He deserves some sort of weird award just for creating this sort of like nightmarish version of Santa Claus. It's very, very odd. The audio description does not do it justice. I remember seeing this and being like, what in the good Lord is this? So while I'm open to the idea of a Santa Claus sequel, and there are parts of it here that I enjoy, there are parts of it here that just don't work. Um, having this toy soldier Santa that just like shouts and God, he looks terrible. It's one of the things I don't miss is actually having to look at him while I'm watching this movie. Um, he just looks so weird. It's one of like the weirdest creative decisions. And one of the things I love about the Santa Claus franchise is that you can tell that it's practical. Like they actually built the set, like everything around them and all the costumes. This is something I would go back for the franchise and be like, what? You know, let's look at it for Oscar nomination because when you look at the set design and the costuming and everything for what they're doing for the North Pole, it's really kind of amazing. Like it feels lived in. It feels like I could go to this place, and that's the best part of it is it doesn't ever feel like green screen. It doesn't look cheap like a cheap set. It feels like you could really go up there and live there. So it's it's sort of like when you watch Hook, uh, and you realize that Steven Spielberg built all of that. Like it's an actual like set, like an actual thing. This that shit was there. Like it's not green screen at all. Um, Practical effects just look great sometimes. So to have this weird toy soldier Santa Claus just never worked for me. Um, I always felt like introducing Spencer Breslin was their way of passing the torch because obviously David Krumholtz was only getting older. He was already the oldest elf to begin with, and I was actually surprised he came back for the third film. But um, yeah, it's and he also appears in the series too, so good for him. But it's basically the entire returning cast. There's one nightmare date that Tim Allen has that is funny. Um, Shout out, I think, to Molly Shannon on that one. But uh, yeah, it's cute. Elizabeth Mitchell is perfectly fine, and she steps into this role and compliments Tim Allen. And um, it's not bad. It's just I never needed to watch the sequels ever again. I've seen Santa Claus 2. This is maybe my third or fourth time. And then maybe one less for the third one. Now this does have audio description. Uh I liked the audio description. I think the audio description is really nice. It's obviously Disney's audio description. Disney benefited from the Department of Education making audio description for the first movie, but they had to make audio description for the second and third movie, and or I guess order it however you want to put that. So yeah, it's really well made audio description. I don't have the same qualms. It doesn't overshoot linguistically like the first movie did a little bit. Um, and I don't expect it to capture the nightmarish version of Tim Allen playing this. It's really hard because then you almost have to get sort of critical. It's there are films that I watch where I'm like, man, this is not good, and you kind of want people to point out the fact that things don't look good or things don't look complete, but the audio description team is supposed to support the overall look of the film, so sometimes we just don't know when things look weird. But I'm telling you, man, Tim Allen is this toy soldier. It's it's the things nightmares are made of. He looks so weird in this. Um, so this film could have been nice. It was a long time between the first and the second movie. It's like 9 years. But then the second and third movie are almost back to back. So it's like, what? Or it's like 8 or 9 years between the second and third movie. 8 years. And then 10 for the, yeah, 2002, 2004. Yeah. So, um, but it's, it just is, it's a cute idea, take Santa out on a date. That's all it ever needed to be. It tries too hard to be everything else, and it's funny that it keeps the ex around and Judge Reinhold is still here, and obviously because they have to have Charlie. Oh, they added the adorable little girl. She's amazing, by the way. That obviously his ex-wife and Neil managed to produce this little uh, Charlie's half sister, um, who is adorable and great, and I love her in this movie. She's a great addition. Also, I forgot about her, even though I just saw this movie. She's in 2 and 3, and that was such a great casting choice, and a nice addition to the movie because since Charlie is older, he doesn't have that childlike wonder thing anymore. She does. She has it in spades. She reminds you so much of Charlie from the first movie. So that was a great call too. So there are a lot of great calls here, but then there's like one big one that just is like, why did we do this? Who thought this was cool? Like I don't understand Toy Soldier Santa at all. But there's some stuff around it that looks pretty cool. Like when the giant toy soldiers come in, I thought that looked cool because it's not Tim Allen in weird makeup doing weird things to try to look with his mouth to make him look like he's a toy. It's very odd. Anyway, the Santa Claus 2, not my favorite Christmas movie. Some of the stuff works, and it's inheriting a lot of nostalgia and goodwill that I have from the first film. So I'm gonna give the Santa Claus 2 a B. So thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.